Hey everyone, welcome back to my Loom kitchen, and today I'll be showing you how to make this cream puff. This is pretty simple to make and doesn't take up a lot of bands. If you click on the link below this video, it should take you to the recipe page where I listed down the number of bands needed as well as the colors I used. So check that out, come back, and let's begin. We will be using our regular loom. If you could remove the center row and have the remaining two rows facing on opposite directions, my front row is facing to the right and my back row is facing to the left. Let's start with the chocolate top. You take two of your chocolate colored bands, wrap it around your hook twice. Now you take four more bands, and pull it through. Now you take the ends of one pair and you're going to place that on the center pegs on both sides. Take the other two ends of the other pair and place it on the pegs, beside it. So you start with your center X. Now we're going to take two bands, chocolate bands again, and we're going to lay them on top, below, and on the sides. Then we're going to lift the lower two bands on these four pegs up and over. Now we're going to extend on these pegs, these two center pegs. You're going to lift the top two bands, which happens to be this pair here and here, and you're going to bring it to the side. Then you're going to take two bands again, and we're going to lay them on the top portion and the bottom. And then we do the sides last. Now we're going to lift the lower bands again. On these two pegs, there will be only two bands to lift up and over. On this, there will be four. Same for the other side. Now we're going to extend again from 6. Now you go to the side. If you notice on this top portion, over here we only lifted 2 bands, and over here we lifted 4 bands. So on the peg where we lifted 4 bands, that's where you take the top 2 bands and bring it to the peg beside it. And same here on the peg where we lifted 4 bands right before this row, which is this one. Take those top 2 bands, bring it here. Now we're going to lay our double bands again. On the top, then on the bottom. and on the sides. Now we're going to lift the lower 4 bands on this peg, lower 4 here, and on those pegs where we extended, there'll only be 2 bands to lift up and over. Now we're going to extend again from 8 to 10. So on these areas where we lifted 4 bands previously up and over, so on this peg, we take those top 2 bands, which will be these bands, in here, and same on this side. Now layer double bands again, the top portion, bottom portion, then on the sides last. Now we're going to lift everything up and over. On the extended areas, on the extended pegs, we're only going to be lifting 2 bands up and over, and the rest will have 4. At 10 pegs, we're going to extend now to 14. So on the outer 2 pegs, just going to take the top 2 bands on each side and extend it out here. Same on the other side. Now we're going to lay 1 round of double bands all around these 14 pegs. Now we're going to lift all the lower bands up and over. Extended areas again will only have 2 bands, while the rest will have 4 to lift. Okay, our next round will be mixing in part of the dough portion. So it'll be this way where your chocolate is still going down, but part of it will have the crust or the dough portion of your pastry. So you have to decide where you're going to have your chocolate fall down. My chocolate will be going down on these pegs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the rest will have the dough portion or the pastry portion. So you first take 2 of your chocolate bands, put your hook through that first peg, and pull it through, and going to replace that peg with one end of those bands you pulled through. I'm going to place one end here temporarily. Go to the second peg, pull your two chocolate bands through. One end goes on the previous peg, and the other end replaces that peg. Then on this peg again, pull two bands through. One end goes in the previous, and the other end replaces that peg. Now we're going to transition into the dough area or the crust colored bands. So on this two pegs, first you're going to get your dough colored band and lay it down here. Now you get your chocolate band, lay it across. Now you're going to pull that dough band from under and over. Take the other end of that laid out chocolate band and hook it onto itself on that previous peg. Take that dough band and hook it onto itself on that new peg. Now we're going to remove that band in the meantime and hold it with your fingers, hold it well. And you're going to put your hook through that peg and you're going to pull those bands through. And remove those bands off that peg and replace it with those transition bands. Then you're going to get two more of your dough bands and we're going to continue the weaving. So go to the next peg, pull two dough bands through, place one end on the previous, and replace that peg with the other end. Next peg, pull the two dough bands through again, or crust bands. Continue weaving all around. Now when I get to this area, these are the last two pegs. I'm going to have another transition here. Take one chocolate band and put it down on the second to the last peg. Take one crust band and lay it across. Now I'm going to pick up that chocolate band I just dropped and lift it up and over. Lift it up and across that laid out crust band. Pick up the other end of that crust band and hook it onto that previous peg. Take the other end of the chocolate band and I place it here. Now I'm going to pick up that transition band first and hold it with my other hand. Place my hook through that peg and I'm going to pull that transition band through and pull those bands off the peg and replace that peg with those transition bands. Now this is our last peg and we're back to the chocolate bands. Pull through, Place that peg with one end, the other end goes on the previous. And you go back to that initial band we pulled through and just place that on that last peg. Now we're going to do one round of these mixed bands again. And you start by laying down your transition bands first. So you have two areas. This is the first. Chocolate goes across that laid out crust band. Hook the other end of that crust band to itself and chocolate band onto itself. There. On the other side, it's over here. I'm going to drop my crust band here. Lay my chocolate band across. I'm going to pull that crust band up and over, up and across that laid out band. Pick up the other end of that chocolate band, hook it onto itself. Pick up the other end of that crust band and hook it onto itself. Now we lay down our bands, double bands, like the chocolate bands only on this chocolate area where the chocolate will be dripping from the top. Then we lay down the crust or the dough bands on the areas, on the rest of the other pegs. Now you're just going to lift all the lower four bands up and over. So I'm going to, for our next round, I'm going to lessen the chocolate drops. For our next round, I'm going to lessen the chocolate portion on top just by 2 pegs. So on this 2 pegs here, I'm going to take 2 of my crust bands and I'm going to pull it through, lift those bands off the peg. I'm going to replace that peg with one end and take the other end off my hook, hold it with my hands. I'm going to go through the next peg. I'm going to pull that off. And then those bands on my hook, on my hand, I'm going to pull through those bands I just removed off that peg. So it's like a shared, these 2 pegs share that crust band. And I'm just going to put it down. Now we're going to do one last layer for this top portion. So this time our transition bands are here because that's where you have 1 peg with chocolate and 1 peg with the crust. So I'm going to drop 1 crust band here. I'm going to lay one chocolate band across. I'm going to pick up that cross band again under and pull it across that laid out chocolate band. Pick up the other end of the chocolate band and hook it onto itself on that peg, and do the same with this with the cross band. Now your transition on the other side is in the same area, so I'll put my cross band down and the chocolate band across. I'm going to pick up that cross band, the lower cross band, put it over, take the other end of that chocolate band and hook it onto itself. Take the other end of the cross band and hook it onto itself. So my chocolate area now are only these 3 pegs, so I'm going to lay double bands of my chocolate portion here. And the rest will have the double crust bands on the remaining pegs. Now you're going to lift all the lower 4 bands up and over. Only on the 2 pegs where you decrease the chocolate bands will you have 2 bands to lift up and over, but everything else should have 4. Now we're going to move on to the cream filling portion. And so you're just going to take your cream colored bands, and I'm using pink this time instead of white. You can make it any flavor you want, and we're just going to weave double bands through that first peg and replace that peg with one end, and the other end just place it here temporarily. Next side, pull 2 cream flavor bands through, replace that peg with one end, and place the other end on the previous peg. Just repeat that all around. Last peg, pull your bands through, place one end on the previous peg and replace that peg with the other end. Now take the other end of the first band we pulled through and just place it over that last band. After weaving everything through, you're going to pick a side to have the opening portion or your front portion. So any side you want. And this will be my front. So I'm just going to take a single band, wrap it around my hook once. I'm going to take two bands, pull it through, and single band, pull it through. This chain is only for the first layer, and you're going to lay that chain down just on the sides and just the front portion of your choice. So single band and double band and a single band again. So you can pause your video and finish up your single, double, single chain and lay that out on just that portion, just the front portion and the sides. Then unpause when you're done and we can continue from there. We're done laying down the chains on the sides and the front portion of our cream puff. Now we're going to lift the lower four bands up and over, but only on the front portion. We're not going to touch the two back pegs. Just push those down. Now we're going to lay double bands of our filling again on the sides. On the front portion. Now we're going to lift the lower four bands again on the front. Then we can lift the lower four on those two back pegs. For the last portion of our filling, we're going to lay double cream filling bands all around the 14 pegs. Now let's lift all the lower four bands on each peg up and over. Now we're done with the filling portion, and we have to go back to the crust or the dough portion for the bottom of our cream puff. Now I go through that first peg again, and we're going to weave our crust bands through. So pull 2 crust bands through and replace that peg with one end. And let's just place the other end here again temporarily. Next peg, pull 2 bands through, place one end on the previous peg and replace that peg with the other end. Just continue that weave all around. The last peg, your hook through, pull 2 bands through, place one end on the previous and replace that peg with the other end. Now take that first band, the other end of that first band we pulled through, and just place it over the last peg. Now we're just going to lay double bands of our crust bands all around. Let's do the sides last again. So lay your bands on the top and the bottom first. Lift all the lower bands up and over. One last round of double bands on the 14 pegs. And lift all the bands up and over. Now on these 14 pegs, we're going to decrease to 12 pegs. So let's decrease from here. pick up those upper two bands on this peg, and it should be the ends of these bands on the side. Just place it here. Pick the lower two and place it behind. Let's do the same on this side. The upper two bands place here. Lower two back here. Now we're going to do double bands on the 12 pegs. Then lift all the lower bands up and over. Corner peg should have 6 bands. And all the other pegs should only have 4. And for our very last round, we'll do single bands before we close. Just going to lift all the lower 4 bands. You're going to be left with 2 bands on each peg. So now to close, we're going to close starting on this peg, but first we go to that peg across. And you're going to put your hook through and pick up that lower band of the 2 and bring that to your starting peg. Now you push your hook through, put your hook through that starting peg, push back those upper 2 bands, pick up that lowest band, and move it forward. Hook through, pick up that lowest, move it forward. Hook through, pick up that lowest, move it forward. Just repeat that all around. Now this is the second to the last peg. There's only 1 band to move to your starting peg, to your first peg. Put your hook through that first peg. Get a single crust or dough colored band. Pull it through. Tie it off in a slip knot. Now you can help it off your loom. You're going to turn this inside out. Bring out your pointy top. So just shape it up. You can stuff this cream puff if you want it to hold its shape, but it pretty much holds on its own. And that's it. So I hope you like it. Enjoy your Loom cream puffs.